necessarily mean the big brick and mortar. It could mean you, and this is how I interpreted it, and I'll let you carry that and run with it. But how I interpreted it was that you are looking not only at that macro, which is that full universe around you, but that inner side as well, which is you personally. And so that really is how I was taking this. So when you talk about that subtitle of DEI, which you are an expert in, I just was like, oh my gosh, we have to run with this.
Oh my God, yeah. This is gonna lose because
I told you, I keep telling writing all week, this is a drop the mic kind of thing.
Oh my God, yeah, this is the explosive, and oh my God, and I was just charged up and just talking. I was talking to one of my mentors at DEI Space last night, and he's been a consultant to 5 presidents.
Wow.
And so I was telling him, because I was trying to get him like, hey, you need to come see a young protege. You need to be on here today. And I know he's in Guam right now, so it'll be 5 in the morning.
You know, and this is for you and everybody here. We are recording this session. So if there's any part of it that you missed or you want to hear it again, these are free sessions. We don't earn any money off of it. They are informational, and I am just honored that you would give me 30 minutes of your time. We're going to start in a couple of minutes, but in the frame of how we do things at CMA Enterprise and on this podcast called Open Mic, we always have a pre-show. So you are encouraged to open your mics at any time and join the conversation. If you're shy or you don't have the audio in hand, feel free to blow up the chat because we've got that working and we will see you. And I'm just loving the thought that you felt enough about us to join us today. So we're going to get started in a couple minutes. If you need to get some water or you just kind of need to stretch a little bit before we get started, please do so, because I don't want you to miss anything.
Yay.
I see John Christopher has raised his hand. Yes, sir. Open up your mic if you want to chat. Hey, I have to say that this is an opportunity. Is it a wave or?
Oh, okay, he was just saying hi.
Oh, hey. Thanks for coming. This is an opportunity to. There are no agendas here. And I wanted to just let everyone know, it's a clean conversation, it's a respectful conversation. We don't have to agree with each other. And this is one where when you talk about, full body corporate engagement, full engagement, that seems to be these days to be a really, really challenging conversation for a lot of people, but it doesn't have to be. And that was one of the reasons why I invited this gentleman to join me today. And I want to take an opportunity to introduce him to you. Give me just a moment. And I was gonna use a PowerPoint, but you know what? I'm gonna keep this open so that we can all see one another and hear each other. So I wanted to introduce you to Maurice A. Arnold. Let me tell you a little bit about Maurice A. Arnold. Maurice Arnold, aka Philosophy, is a senior master sergeant, retired. Is a leading organizational development and team building consultant. He shifts the trajectory of organizations by delivering leaders, consultations to cultivate distilled wisdom and social intelligence for building inclusionary, full throttle, mission-driven teams. Now that's a mouthful, folks. That is truly a mouthful. Oh my gosh. Maurice has demonstrated hands-on leadership over the past 2 decades by guiding multi-ethnic award-winning teams. So in other words, I'm trying to tell you in a nutshell, he knows what he's talking about. Today's influencers recognize Maurice for thought-provoking insight and strategic direction. He gets it done. He can command an audience's attention, whether a small leadership team or a multitude like his compelling Brandman University commencement address. Oh, we have a keynote speaker here. Okay, all right. Who addressed over 3,000 people. His mentor is Dr. Samuel Betances. Did I say that correctly?
Yes.
All right, okay. A diversity consultant to 5 former presidents. He's a native of the city where hawks, braves, and falcons reign. We'll forgive you for that. Maurice is happily married to Lucretia Arnold, who's the CEO of 180, a firm, and they have 6 children from ages 33 to 8, and he's a new granddaddy.
Yeah.
So what I'd like to do at this point, I'd like to open up this box and turn it over to Mr. Maurice Arnold. Maurice, welcome.
To Gail and I see Sweetness joining. There go my wife. Yeah.
Don't mess up.
I see my wife joining. So, I see the heart. Thank you, Sweetness. Yeah, my wife is the CEO of 180, a firm, and she also hosts the podcast called The Seat at the Table, and ladies been going crazy over it. But I am a new grandfather. I'm a Papa Bear now. So my wife is a Gigi, and I'm a Papa. And Papa is an acrostic or an acronym which stands for Patriarchal Authority, Pure Adoration.
All right. Okay.
And so that young baby, young Hendrix, we call young Hendrix. That's his name, but we call him HD. My wife and I.
Okay.
That HD stands for high definition because he's going to be a young man with clear.
Yeah, but have it if he's got you as a grandpa.
Come on. Yay.
So in the 30 minutes that we have together, you agreed to join me today to hit on this topic that everybody is the buzz acronym of DEI, but more specifically, your framework of talent optimization and full body engagement or full body community engagement. I mean, Maurice, what does all that mean from the philosophy perspective?
So all of that really comes down to full corporate body engagement and talent optimization. We in untapped talent, where people is untapped and people are not engaged. For the past 24 months, diversity, equity, and inclusion has been the flavor of the month for the past 24 months. Mm-hmm. However, if DEI will be sustainable, it must tie into the 5 drivers that are connected to business: cash, assets, people, profit, and growth. If you and I do not tie our diversity initiatives or DEI initiatives to the 5 drivers, they won't be sustainable, and you lose the support of the individuals at the C-suite at the executive level. Because at the executive level, they're not so much about feel good, they're more so about execution. Now, if execution can be married to feel good, that's a beautiful thing. Yeah. But if it's not, there's a problem.
Yeah. And that's I gotta let me jump in on that, because having sat in the boardroom, in the corporate boardroom and oversaw a lot of those kind of initiatives, the first thing I would say to these people, what's the kind of return on investment we're going to get? And they all look at me like, I can't believe she just said that. Yeah, she said it. So you are absolutely correct. It's all about what can those assets, specifically those assets called people, help to generate the return on investment that I need to see so that our shareholders will be happy with us.
Exactly. And so my wife had her hand up. Sweetness, you had your hand up? What's going on?
I'm getting out just applauding what you said.
Hey, come on. So with that, with the cash assets, people, profit, and growth, that's for the marketplace. Within the governmental space, we drop off just a little bit of that element and we keep the gap. It's all about the growth, the assets, and the people, because the cash and profits are dropped away. And so it fits whether it's governmental or whether it's marketplace. However, with the untapped talent, this is the issue. Diversity has a negative connotation. Diversity has the negative connotation of white male bashing, victimization, rehashing the horrors of the past, and blame shifting, putting all the blame. My condition is based on you. I'm not saying that racism doesn't exist. I'm saying that we have a 6-inch mouse casting a 60-foot shadow.
Yeah.
And so when we take our eyes and say, these are the possibilities, because we're fully actualizing all of our talent when we discover what diversity is. And let me define diversity for you. Diversity is a leadership imperative or leadership discipline of building mission-driven teams, inclusive mission-driven teams for operational excellence. Notice, I didn't say anything about social justice in there. Right. It has its place. Right. But it's all about operational excellence. And that's where the talent optimization and full corporate body engagement comes into play. Now imagine, everybody knows Usain Bolt.
Yeah. The
Olympic award running, that guy is blazing. I mean, that guy almost fast as I am. This brother's fast. But imagine Usain Bolt, all of his muscles are not leveraged. They're not used properly, and so he's relegated to a wheelchair. So he's participating in the Special Olympics because he still has the DNA, but only his arms are working. The muscles in his legs have atrophied through lack of use. That's how most organizations are. Just the chest level up looks real good. And so the organization is relegated to wheelchair racing when they could be a world-class sprinter by using the full corporate body.
So what I'm hearing you say, though, going back a couple comments, is I'm hearing that P word, preparation.
Yes.
And that's a powerful word that sometimes gets missed in the conversation. Because when you can't have optimization if you don't have preparation. And I'm not talking about preparation H either. So help me with that. Help me with that. I'm sorry. It just came out.
So beautiful. Sorry. That is beautiful, because the other piece of diversity is about creating a pipeline of qualified talent.
Exactly.
That's the main piece, because some people, most of us take a cursory glance at an organization. We look at the C-suite, and let's say that baby is lily white, right? We assume that organization isn't diverse. However, you can't take a snapshot. Many of us have been tricked by looking at the trailer of a movie and thinking the movie was going to be a certain way.
Right.
We take a snapshot of an organization and look at who's at the C-suite and saying what is happening internally. When in all actuality, I'm not saying that it's not, but what I'm saying is, in all actuality, that all white corporate space could be behind the scenes developing that pipeline, but we don't know until we come in and investigate.
Right.
And that's a part of that preparation of getting everybody involved.
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question on that too. Does that have anything to do with messaging? Because one of the things I've seen, and I'm sure you have as well, and I'd love for everybody else, open up your mic and join in this conversation if you can. If that is happening, and in a lot of instances it is, but the messaging is not getting to the people's ears who really need to hear and understand it. And I think that's where a lot of organizations make their big mistake, or they're not talking and giving that message out to the community. And I send that out to our audience and ask, what are your feelings and comments on that? So, but I just, you keep saying stuff that makes me inject.
Anybody got any thoughts of what we've touched so far? But Gail, I do agree with you wholeheartedly about that messaging. That messaging has to be communicated throughout the organization. Mm-hmm. And that messaging almost is like, once that message is communicated, then people can understand, because when somebody else makes a comment and say, hey, your organization is racist, somebody within the organization can say, au contraire, mon frère. I'm telling you, this program is going on, this, and this, and actually they're trying to create that pipeline of qualified talent. My mentor often makes a statement. He said, no one is born qualified. Right. We must qualify them. Yeah. And so with diversity in that piece, but then let me switch over to the word equity. Mm-hmm. When I think of equity, I think of two letters, and it would be the acrostic IF. I represents the investment, F represents fairness, dealing with the meritocracy. So the investment is, I'm looking at an opportunity where a promotion is available. I'm looking at somebody else who, this is a low threat situation. They may not be fully qualified, but I will qualify them by putting them into that position. That's the investment. That's the equity piece. The fairness is when something is absolute. This is all about a meritocracy. When I was over in Iraq, and if we're going out, I'm not caring about diversity. I need the best sniper. Right. I need the brother who can shoot the best at the moment. Right. We'll work on that other piece. Oh, we need some more black snipers. Okay, yeah. We'll work on that, but your boy going out right now. Right. And so we need that, which is the most qualified individual. So I believe that we accomplish both at the same time without sacrificing one or the other.
Tell me, talk a little bit more when it comes to that whole equity piece, and it kind of is a segue into inclusion. Right. And there's a lot of that has to do with being able to build relationships. And I've been in my business for 32 years. And it has not gotten to be 32 years without the relationships in place. I would say 90% of my business has come because of relationships, whether it's direct or indirect. And it is just so important. And what I find also, especially with this diversity and inclusion piece, it doesn't matter to me, because I'm at a stage in my life where I look at capabilities and competencies. I don't care what color you are. But that piece is important. Do you have the relationships? And I ask a lot of people, young people in entrepreneurship, that a lot, y'all, and it doesn't matter the age, young people is mean I just started in this. What kind of relationships do you have? Because that inclusion piece is going to ride on the relationships that you have, the ride up and down the elevator. elevator. It's going to depend on the kind of relationships that you have. And I find that the majority of my clients, they don't look like me.
Come on.
They don't look like me because the inclusion piece came through the equity, which was the relationship that I took the time to build. And I always start the conversation with that. What are your relationships? What relationships do you have in play? I've had people who maybe never ever talk to me, but they watch. Who do you think or know is watching you? So I'm sorry, I'm preaching. But there's a lot that goes into that talent optimization, that corporate community engagement, that full body investment. What is the level of investment that we are all doing? When you see people and of gender, ethnicity, lifestyle, and they, in your mind, are sitting at the top of the food chain, and you wonder, well, how did they get there? It's relationship. So, I mean, talk to me a little bit more about that, because I think that's a big component that's missing in the equation of this DEI. You can't force anybody on somebody just because you need to increase your numbers. That's not going to happen. That's short-lived.
That's just like telling somebody, you know, coming into an organization, this your daddy now. You know, like they're your mentor. And you're like, negative. No, those relationships have to be built.
Exactly.
And one, just like Lanes introduced us together.
Yes.
And what happens though, Gail, in that space, there's a responsibility. I call this I squared. The
right.
responsibility of the individual and the responsibility of the institution.
Exactly.
The institution represents anyone with positional or supervisory authority within an organization.
Right.
That's the institution. The individual is obviously, we're the individuals. What happens is that in most cases, in many cases, individuals are waiting on the movement from the institution.
Exactly. You cannot.
And I hold a basic position of transformational followership.
Right.
You can actually lead from the bottom. It won't be sustained from the bottom, but you can actually lead initiative from the bottom and trigger change.
Yeah.
And so that's something that's really huge with me. And what I'm saying is that when we're in corporate meetings or whatever in the marketplace, we shouldn't be sitting back with our arms folded. Okay, let me see if they're going to invite me in. No. I know I got the skills to pay the bills. I will invite myself in.
Yeah.
And somebody say, well, hey, you know, I can't, that's not my personality type. Well, you need to let it be your personality type.
You need to let it be. You know, I this isn't my quote. I'm taking it from somebody else. I've heard it a couple times. Well, if they don't give you a seat at the table, then bring your own chair. And so that goes for anybody, young professionals, whether you be young males, whether you be female, whatever your category of choice is. If they don't give you a seat, bring your own chair. I keep a fold chair in the back of my car, in my car trunk, just for that reason. If they don't have a chair for me, I'll go to the trunk and I get it out and get it out the back. So it is. Yes, he's crazy. But it is so important. You know, when I sat on the board of a regional bank, sat on it for 24 years. And there was, you know, when I see the young women or young professionals, I didn't realize, so someone said, you know, we really are watching you. And I'm like, oh gosh, I'm sorry if I misstep. They're like, no, we are really watching how you're handling yourself with the men, because I was always the only woman at the table. And, you know, I made myself available to the women who wanted to chat and learn how to manipulate, maneuver at the table. and especially a lot of the women of color. And I always tell them, this is my private cell phone. You are welcome to call me anytime. I think I only had one or two call me. And there was one who missed the promotion. And I knew it was one she should have applied for. And I saw her at one of the meetings, and she looked totally disengaged. And I asked her boss, I said, what's going on with her? And he said, she's been real quiet since we, did the hire. I said, do you mind if I take her to breakfast and we talk? And I did, because I didn't want to step on any toes. And I said, look, I noticed you were a distraction for me in the meeting because I noticed you were disengaged. And you're not usually disengaged. What's going on with you? And she said, I'm really hurt that they didn't ask me if I wanted the job. And I said to her, and this is DEI related, and she kind of let her talk a little bit, and it kind of sounded like she was going that route of, well, I didn't get it because I'm Black, right? No, you didn't get it because you didn't ask for it. And I said to her, did you let them know? And she said, no, I didn't. And I looked at her and I said, do I look clairvoyant to you? And she said, no. I said, so why do you think they're going to know what's in your head and what you're thinking? Did you take the time to build those relationships and communication channels to get what you want? And I told her, I said, I typically over the years have gotten everything that I wanted because I spoke up. I built the relationships, but the first thing I did was I let people know. And that's a lesson that I share with all young people or people young in an industry. You gotta let people know what you want. If you don't, they never know. You can't scream, otherwise. Now there are certain situations where you gotta let folk know what's going on if something is not happening. But you gotta let folk know. If you don't, you got no argument. And that, I think, when it comes to a lot of the DEIs, is a big challenge for people who did not speak up or build the relationships. I learned how to play golf. I learned how to play golf. I got a beautiful pair of Lady Pin graphite clubs, left-handed at that. Left-handed, and I learned how to play golf for a reason. Okay.
Now, the beautiful thing about your story, you personify something that must happen within relationships. You served as a bridge to bring this person over into a place of transition or transformation, actually, to bring her to a totally different place.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is everybody, it's a full corporate body engagement. Everybody is responsible for DEI. One of the most important things about DEI, cognitive diversity. We need diversity because we all think differently. There are 6 mental frames that we could actually break down just because of diversity. When I look at IBM, from their business model, they had a market development team in the late 90s, early 2000s. They went from dealing with generating profits. It was something dealing with the ladies or something, but they found a special, they increased their revenue from $10 million to $30 million it was from 1998 to 2003. In one particular segment, one particular niche, all because of cognitive diversity. They brought in some ladies and everybody who thought differently. And when somebody's in that boardroom or whatever capacity, when you serve as an advocate for another person, it usually play out like this. Gail brings an outstanding idea. The brothers in the room didn't hear it. A brother 5 minutes later said the same thing. Oh my God, Jim, that was outstanding. Well, it takes somebody in there with some vertebrae to stand up and say, wait a minute, hold on, bro. au contraire, mon frère, Gail said that 5 minutes ago, and I think it was an outstanding idea. And actually, I believe she has a better handle on it.
Yeah. But you know how that also can be played. I learned how to play that in the boardroom. And as the only woman, I said, you know what? I speak Martian. You know, what is it? Was it Dr. Gray's book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus? If you haven't read the book, it's been around for years. If you haven't read it, read it. I speak Martian and Venus. And I knew that if I was going to get any of my stuff, you know, remember I said I play to win. And I found several advocates on that board. And I would have conversations with them either off to the side or when we had our director's dinner the night before. And I would look at them and I'd whisper, you know, this is what we need to do. This is what I need to see happen tomorrow, but I can't say it. And they're like, but Gail, you speak well. You can speak, you can say that. I said, no, I speak Venus. This has to be fluent Martian, okay? I don't want to miss it. I don't want to miss any words in the translation. So I need you to say it and I'll join in. And the way they would do it, they would start it off and say, you know what? You know, I was talking to Gail the other day and we were talking about this, and this. And I don't want to mess it up, but there were some points that she made that I want her to share with you all right now. And it was real hard to keep straight face, but you know what? It was received.
Come on.
Because ladies, guys, whomever you are, sometimes you have to be the puppeteer. And the puppeteer might not be the one that you see on the stage, but they are still guiding everything. So and you know, when it comes to that full body corporate engagement for optimization, you just better let it be your personality type. No, I can't do that. I'll be in big trouble if I do. But when it comes to optimization and results, you got to know the players in the game. It is the chess game. Right. And especially with that DEI, how do we make it a formidable chess game where we can call checkmate?
One of the first places I would start from a business aspect, is I would be looking at the corporate goals.
Right.
I'll be looking at the corporate goals and the corporate visions. Like let's just take a quarterly projection. Mm-hmm. Oh, this quarter we want to da 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 da. And so what I would present, I would present something that's from the DEI space that I know would add to that game to get into that particular goal, because that's what I'm talking about from that Ken Coates book, the big picture, the 5 drivers: cash, assets, people, profit, and growth. I would tie the initiative that I'm launching to one of those. Yes. And I'm telling you, the cats in the C-suite, they would be blown away. See, that's what moves the C-suite of the 5 drivers. Right. What moves the others within the organization, the other people not moved in that. They're moved by corporate responsibility in a sense. Exactly. They're moved by something that makes them feel good. So on them, you're this that we're doing something good. In the corporate suite, you're selling to them that this is how we're killing it, and we're doing something good. So
that's so I'm hearing socioeconomics.
Yes.
Yeah, because I'm an economist.
Come on.
And when I hear that kind of stuff, it's that economies of scale.
Yes, come on.
It's the economies of scale. How do we balance it out? We can take the same message, and we'll have it up here, we'll have it up here, we'll have it here, and then we'll have it ground level, and then we'll have one where we can take outside. And we're saying the same thing every time. And if you want to get the results that you're looking for, try it. Just try it.
Exactly. And I know, like, within our culture now, because DEI is the flavor of life, right, there's one essential element that is missing in most DEI discussions, and it is the matter of truth. So it's all about feelings, but there's a guy, Matt Patterson, who made a statement. He said, emotions are great servants, but terrible masters.
Yeah. Yeah.
Someone may feel a certain way. It doesn't make it truth. I can hear it. But at the end of the day, because let's just say that young lady that you were talking to, Gail, let's just say that she didn't have the requisite skill set to occupy that space.
Yes.
With you coming to her and saying, hey, I see your potential. I see your potential. You have the capability. You just don't have the capital yet.
Right.
Let me drop some knowledge on.
Not necessarily dollars.
Right. Yeah. That's what I'm talking. I'm talking about intellectual capital, like the skill. You know, because leadership is a function. Leadership is a function of character and competence. She has the character, but she may not have the competence at the moment.
Yeah.
And so you're actually bridging that gap, bringing her to that level of competence. And it may be a tough conversation and saying, she may be saying, they didn't bring me because I'm racist. And I might have to tell her, no, man. Au contraire. You didn't, you're lacking in this, and this area, but let's see how we could work and bring you up in that space.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I'm seeing also, and my husband, he's always like, you really follow this stuff, don't you? I'm like, yeah, because it's my life work. Right. And we have, that whole term of we're all in the same boat now. Well, I think that the pandemic has revealed that, or more so anything, exposed it. And it goes back to that comment when you were talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, those definitions. How are we retooling to keep that boat afloat? And I think that we as citizens, because I don't know if I've got people from all around the world watching this, we as citizens have been remiss. I'm not going to say failed. That's not a word I like to use. But we've been remiss in keeping our skill sets sharp.
Right.
And because of that, we only realize how dull the knife is or how flat the spoon has become when we get into a situation where, okay, now it requires certain skill sets and we don't have them. The fact that, technology tools and components are hard to get. Well, why are they get? Because we don't have the skill sets here in abundance that we need to make it. Some of the biggest gaps in employment now are the trades. Because everybody thought they needed to put on, hey, Ray, jump in. We've got to look at these things.
Right.
And we're all in the same boat now. Because a lot of folks they didn't buy the ticket. Hey, Ray.
How you doing? I just wanted to add to what you said about being ready for an opportunity, because this discussion happens on several different levels. One is where you feel that you haven't been offered the opportunity at all, right? And like you said, there could be a perception that you're not up for it, or as you even mentioned, it could be that people thought that you would ask, but you didn't, right? But then there's the next one where you might be considered for something, and people feel that you're not up to the task for whatever reason it is, regardless of your own perception of suitability. And like you said, it's really important in terms of having, the picnic utensils ready and available. Because when the picnic actually comes and you pull out all the stuff and all your utensils are rusty and not usable, well, then they're giving you a seat at the table, but you're not ready to actually do anything with it. And that's another trap that we tend to fall into sometimes. Is these, we're so busy trying to get people to notice us in terms of the fact that we should be considered for something, that we don't always invest in keeping our skill set up to date, so that when we actually do get the opportunity, we actually do something with it. Because you got to realize, take the presidency in 2008 as, a large scale example. The fact that you reached a particular place doesn't mean that people aren't looking for ways to discredit you when you get there. Mm-hmm. Like, the end of the journey is not when somebody says, "Oh yeah, you got the job."
That's the beginning.
That's really, and you got to realize that in a lot of cases, something for you just because they gave you an opportunity. In fact, they're looking at it as a way to justify why they wouldn't give people like you an opportunity. So we gotta be mindful of that. That when you're talking about having a seat at the table, it's not just about justifying it from the point of view that you should have something that everyone else seems to deserve. You need to be ready to actually deliver the goods at the level and beyond of what's required, so that they could be sitting there saying, "What a miss! I should have done this 5 years ago. Imagine where my company would be had I called Gail 10 years ago. We would be 10 times bigger than we were." You need to get them to have a certain feeling of remorse. Like, we should have done this before. That's the feeling that you need to target in terms of when you get your seat at the table. That was just all I wanted to put in there.
And that was a mouth.
Come on.
Thank you. We had Ray as our guest last month, and it was off the chain. So much so I got to bring him back at New Year. Because everybody's like, "You bringing him back?" I'm like, "Yeah, we'll bring him back. We'll bring him back." Because it was just it was just an outstanding conversation. But what I'm hearing you say though, Maurice and Ray, thank you for your comments, is that this really is an integral part of how an organization or an individual markets themselves. I mean, help me understand that, because when we talk about optimization, I don't know anybody who is not in business or seeking employment or whatever you define it as, that whole diversity, equity, and inclusion, how based on how you define it is what gets integrated in achieving those goals. So if I'm looking at those 5 pillars that you have given me, I may look at it from my own personal household, or I may look at it from my business, or I may look at it from the village that I'm surrounding myself with. It becomes an individual, and no one person, and I'll ask the people that are on the call with us to open up your mics. No one person defines it the same way. How do you define your optimization? What does that really and truly mean when it comes to success?
Right. When it comes to success, or when it comes to talent optimization within an organization, I'm looking at the individuals and are they reaching their full potential? And so I want to, if I got a Maserati that's moving at the speed of a go-kart, that's the problem.
You got a problem.
That's a problem. I need Mario Andretti. We might need to change our leadership. I need Mario Andretti behind real, so he can push the Maserati to its fullest potential. And so that is the talent optimization. In some cases, within an organization, not just the leaders, everyone, but more so the leadership, needs to have a very keen eye for discerning talent. Within spaces, I am a environmental consultant. I discern which environments individuals thrive on and help leaders create that environment, because most people say, "Well, Mo, you come in and motivate the people, au contraire, mon frère." That is very arrogant for me to think that I can come in and motivate you.
Right.
What I can do is discern what places you thrive in, help create that culture, because a fish naturally swims in water. You don't have to motivate a fish to swim.
Yeah.
Motivation is intrinsic, and that's what I want to tap into. And when you tap into the intrinsic nature of an individual, they begin to flourish. I remember when I was in the Air Force, my commander was like, Mo, how in the world did you motivate even the slugs? How did you get these dudes to achieve great things? Let me tell you one dude I called him, I had nicknames for him or whatever, but I called him Franchise Pete. So I'm like, Franchise Pete, what's up, baby? And he was always getting in trouble for messing up. But one thing that I did discern is that he loved video games. So I understand within any organization, there are 3 transferable competencies that people need from any position. That is communication, organization, and planning. I'm always working with my people on those 3 because that's a transferable competency. You need it from any leadership level. And so I was like, hey, I said, hey, bro, I see you like, playing that Nintendo, that PlayStation. I said, check this. I said, what I need you to do, I need you to organize for the entire squadron a PlayStation tournament.
Yeah.
See, in his mind, he's thinking, oh my God, I got a team leader.
You put him in his element.
Yeah. He want me to get in here and organize a PlayStation tournament. But what I was getting at the communication, organization, and planning. I tapped into what he was all about. And that actually helped him step into his potential. You know what I'm saying? And so that is, he began to actualize, like, oh my God, like, what? This thing is killing it. And that's what we discern what individuals are about. Dr. Miles Monroe, one of my favorite authors, made this statement. He said, purpose is the master of motivation and the mother of commitment.
Wow. Wow.
If I want my kid to stop eating candy, but I understand that my kid has Olympic potential, what I want is cast a vision of going to the Olympics and getting them in it, because then they'll drop off candy anyway, because purpose is the master of motivation.
There you go.
And the mother commitment, they'll stick to it. They like, hey, I don't look at somebody bring them a Snickers.
Not yet. Nope. Well, I once again, you all have baited the trap, and I fell in it. But I'm trying to be mindful of everybody's time. But and if we need to move these conversations to an hour, then we'll definitely do so. But I'm going to have to bring us to a close. And, I heard through this whole topic discussion of talent optimization and full body engagement, 3 areas that I lead with. And it's potential, preparedness, and purpose. And it doesn't matter what category you're sitting in, or your age, or the region that you're in. If we're going to maximize the DEI for positioning, then we really need to be mindful of those things. And Maurice, I want you to close this out with some final points of reference. There's my sweetie pie right there. Hello, Noah.
What I want to close with is one of the things that I do, because of the negative connotation associated with DEI, I replace the word diversity with relationship management.
Okay.
I replace the word inclusion with connection.
Okay.
So when we're having conversations about relationship management and connection, I'm going back to what you were talking about earlier. I use relationship management because the architect of emotional intelligence, Daniel Goodman, that's one of the final pieces in his self-knowledge, social awareness. One of the other pieces is relationship management.
Right.
And in that piece, that's what I build from. And so that piece on relationship management and connection, but at the end of the day, this whole thing is about building trust. Mm-hmm. Every relationship moves at the speed of trust. That's what we don't really have racial problems within organizations. We got trust problems
Exactly.
that will filter through sometimes through racism or whatever, not including people. But at the end of the day, if we can build trust, if individuals can trust, they'll step into
Exactly.
optimizing their time.
So I have a screen. I don't know if everybody can see it, but why don't you tell people as we close out for this month how people can reach you and follow up the conversation with you?
Well, you can catch me on my company on my website, Molosophy. That's www.mo-losophy, LOSOPHY.com. So between Mo and Losophy, you need to have a dash there. Or you can catch me via email at Maurice at mo_losophy, LOSOPHY.com. So you can catch me on either one of those. You can reach out to me and we could definitely further the conversation.
But if they're old school and want to talk to you out loud.
Oh, okay. Right. They can give me a call at 707. Actually, the better number would be 681-5397.
Okay, why don't you put that in the chat box for me? Okay.
707. Yeah, I'll put that in there. I will put that in there.
Hey.
Man.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I am Gail Birks, president of CMA Enterprise Incorporated, and I want to share with you that from the bottom of my heart, once again, it has been a joy to host you for Open Mic. We will meet again next month in September. What is it? The second Thursday. We'll go back to the second Thursday of the month at 2 p.m. And if you have anyone who's interested in this conversation that we've had today, it is being recorded and will be available on the company website in a couple of days. Thank you so much. And I look forward to keeping the conversation going in August and beyond. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Gail. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, Rick, for chiming in. Come on.
Very
man.
welcome.
Come.
Right, Mo. It's a
Thank you.
pleasure.
Bye. Bye, Katina.
Bye. Thank you.
So good to see you, my dear.
You have to meet.
We do call me. Let me know what's good for you.
Okay, we'll do.
All
Nice
right.
conversation. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Come on.
Well, mommy.
Hold on for just a second.
And I'm gonna go to the food truck today.
Maurice, don't leave
Yeah,
me.
maybe
Okay.
in a minute.
Thanks, guys.
Let me stop the recording.
Recording stopped.
Oh.
Hey, Noah.
Say hi, Gail.
Hi, Gail.
Say hi, Mo.
Hi, Mo.
Hey, how old are you? How old are you, Noah?